My friends, Mrs. Real here with another installment, our final installment of Samantha Spinner and the Super Secret Plan. Now, we last left Samantha and Nipper were fighting because Nipper was trying to bring all the treasures from the tomb back to Seattle because, he didn't get to have the New York Yankees, so he might as well have something. Samantha wouldn't let him, so they came back home. Nipper took off because he was never going to speak to Samantha again. In the meantime, Samantha went into the house, grabbed some change, went back on the mag train to Paris, and got the ninjas that were stuck there to follow her, so they now know how to get on the mag train. And she was on the mag train with them, and they were trying to get the umbrella from her, and the umbrella got run over, and it got broken. I'm hoping it's not the real umbrella. I don't know. In the meantime, Nipper was stayed in Seattle and went to the park and had the big blue Hope Diamond in his pocket. And at the museum, there was a convention going on, the Starch Convention right here. START stands for Stolen Treasures and Artwork Recovery Convention and Hoedown. And as he was looking at everybody there, he spotted people from all areas, including Wahoo, Nebraska, and Wagga Wagga, Australia. And he remembered Wahoo and Wagga Wagga being the mag train stations that they had in there. And that's when he realized that the big blue diamond was gone. But remember, at this museum, one of the ladies that works there was a friend of Uncle Paul's. So here's where we're going to start our last few chapters of Samantha Spinner. Trying to share my screen here. There we go. All right, so chapter 28 is called Starch. Olivia Tuttle stood in the lobby of the art museum, beaming with pride. It was the second day of Starch. She loved meeting professionals from other countries and catching up on the latest gossip. It didn't bother her that all her team came in a miserable last place in the trivia quiz challenge. The art museum in Volunteer Park was her home turf, and she felt like royalty. She noticed Pajama Paul's nephew moving anxiously through the crowd. He was darting around the lobby, looking under tables and chairs. "What's the matter, soiled young man?" asked Olivia, tapping him on the shoulder. "I had a diamond," he told her. "It was about this big." He held up his hand and gestured with his thumb and index finger. "It was bright blue, and I lost it." Olivia didn't waste time wondering why a kid would have a gem that sounded a lot like the Hope Diamond. She reached for the bullhorn she kept stashed in the lobby information kiosk. "Attention, Starch attendees," she barked. "This is a Code 9 situation. Repeat, a Code 9 situation." Everyone in the lobby froze. The banjo players stopped strumming. Seconds later, the accordion players stopped squeezing. Dutifully, they all turned and listened to Olivia. "A large gem has gone missing. It is a huge blue diamond the size of a walnut. Size of a walnut. This is not a test. Fan out, remain unobtrusive, and observe." Chapter 29, The Strange Parade. Samantha hid behind a tree at the edge of the volunteer park and watched the 24 members of the Rain as they huddled together. So the ninjas from Paris met up with the other ninjas that were already following them around the park. She also noticed a woman in a bowler hat and a green t-shirt sitting on a park bench a few yards away, sniffing the air and eyeing them carefully. Crumgum addressed the group. "First, we'll go in and take the diamond back," he said, pointing to the museum. One of the ninjas was holding an electronic device with an antenna. He gave everyone in the group a thumbs up. "While we're there, check to see if there are any paintings worth stealing." He made eye contact with several of the other ninjas and patted the rectangle shape on his back. "There might be 1 or 2 guards inside," he added, "so chop first, ask questions, never." They all drew their swords and tiptoed off to the museum. Samantha waited until they disappeared through the front door. She figured Nipper would have lost the big blue gem by now. She headed after the Rain, up the stairs and into the lobby. Just as she had hoped, the museum was full of security guards. As soon as she stepped into the crowded lobby, she spotted Nipper. He was standing by the information kiosk with Olivia Turtle, and 2 women in gray business suits. He was waving his arms and talking excitedly about something. "That sounds very much like the Hope Diamond," Samantha heard one woman say in a thick French accent. The other woman started to speak, but stopped suddenly. She sniffed and looked around. The smell of stale cheese, rotten hot dogs, oil paint, ashtrays, and 200 baby changing tables filled the lobby. The two women glanced at each other quickly. "Les bende putrade!" they both shouted. "Watch out for the rain!" shouted Nipper. Samantha smiled. She had lured the 24 members of the Royal Academy of International Ninjas into a room with 200 of the world's most dedicated security guards. The battle was over before it had really begun. Most of the ninjas decided they were hopelessly outnumbered and dropped their swords. One got clobbered with a banjo. As she watched a ninja banging his sword uselessly against the side of a guard's giant soup can costume, Samantha thought about the entry in the Encyclopedia Myscelium. Without the plans, the Rain was truly a mediocre outlaw gang. Samantha heard a howl. She turned and saw the shortest ninja scampering around the room. He ripped off his ninja slippers and started leaping from statue to statue and swinging from light fixtures. No one was able to catch the monkey until he stopped at the table with the frosted cookies. He picked up one that looked like Michelangelo's David. Then he dropped it and picked up one shaped like the Fountain of Neptune. He licked it 3 times, took a bite, and then put it back on the table. He used a foot to pick up another cookie, shaped like The Thinker by Rodin, and began to rub it between 2 of his hairy toes. 6 security guards from Machu Picchu tackled him. Crumgum didn't give up. Samantha saw him slashing his samurai sword back and forth wildly. People began to panic. A crowd stampeded across the lobby, pushing Samantha backward toward the exit. She peered over someone's shoulder and watched Crumgum stop as he spotted Nipper. "I'll make it easy for you to be on both sides of the Atlantic at the same time," he said, and charged. With both hands, he swung his sword down at Nipper's head. Samantha pushed forward and burst from the crowd. She grabbed the ninja's sleeve, stopping the silver blade inches from Nipper's forehead. Then she pulled as hard as she could and yanked the ninja away from her brother. Crumgum's smelly black shirt came untucked, and the heavy object hiding in his back came loose. A wood panel stuck out. He jerked free and spun around, sending the board sailing through the air. It arced up and then down toward the punch bowl. Olivia Turtle lunged forward. She pushed the clown out of the way, reached up, and snatched the tumbling object just before it splashed into the foamy red beverage. She held it out before her, showing a full view of the painting. It was a portrait of a smiling woman. "Whoa, Nellie!" shouted a visitor who was dressed like The Scream by Edvard Munch. "It's the Mona Lisa!" Olivia cradled the painting gently in her arms, as if it were a newborn Italian baby from the 1500s. Crumgum whirled back around, looking for an escape route. Samantha stood between him and the lobby exit. Hands at her side, she blocked his path. "Stop right there, please," she said. "That's English for you, s'il vous plaît." She raised her left hand, holding up a red umbrella. "What?" the ninja screamed. "How?" The umbrella in her hand was old and worn, and unlike her parents' black-handled umbrella, now lying crushed in the mag train tunnel, it had a wooden handle. It was the super secret plans. "When? Who? Where?" asked the ninja. "I've learned something very important," Samantha said. "I've learned to take a closer look at things." The Steak Bandit stepped toward her. "And to watch out for stale bread, too," she shouted, and swung at him with her other arm. In her right hand, she clutched a long, hard, 3-day-old baguette she'd purchased outside the Louvre for 50 cents. She used it to smack him on the side of the head so hard that it dislodged several clumps of dried gum from his forehead. He fell to the floor, knocked out cold. Nipper ran to his sister. For a second, she thought he was going to give her a hug. Then he stopped. He smiled and put one hand on her shoulder lightly. "Shukran," he said in perfect Arabic. "You're welcome," said Samantha. A few people congratulated a Norwegian woman in a big fake mustache for using her banjo as such an effective weapon. Many more people gathered around Olivia Turtle. They congratulated her for moving so quickly and saving the Mona Lisa. "It's a good thing I recognized that famous painting right away," she announced. "I was able to do that because I've heard so much about it from Pajama..." She looked at Samantha and stopped herself. "From Paul Spinner." Olivia finished. Samantha stood with Nipper in the doorway and watched the starch conventioneers march the stinking bandits out of the museum and through the park. They continued down the street toward downtown Seattle. Samantha knew that when they went back to school, Morgan Bogdan Lupel would tell everyone that he'd seen the world's strangest parade. More than 200 people walked down 13th Avenue. Some were dressed like ninjas. Others were dressed like police officers. A few were dressed like famous works of art. A monkey screeched at everybody and swung from lamp to lamp all the way through the neighborhood. A woman in a uniform carried the Mona Lisa. She was sure nobody would believe him. Remember, he's the one that tells stories all the time. Chapter 30, The Gift. Samantha and Nipper walked around the water tower, out of the park, and past the mailbox. They were one house away from home when Nipper stopped suddenly. He put out his arm and blocked his sister. "Ugh," she said as his arm whacked her in the belly. "What now?" Nipper stood on tiptoe and peered down the snodgrass driveway. "Wait right here," he said. "I really want you to see something." Giggling, he skipped down the driveway. He hopped over a hula hoop and continued toward Missy's house. He stepped on a strand of yarn lying on the ground and nearly wiped out, but he steadied himself and kept going. Before Nipper could reach the side porch, Missy pushed open the screen door. "So, it's you here again," she said, stepping outside. Nipper stopped. He kept smiling as he looked up at her. "Decent people always use the front steps," she told him. "This won't look good on your record." He ignored this and cheerfully held out his hand. The black and green ring rested in his open palm. "We went to London Bridge and I got you this present," he told her. Missy looked at him suspiciously. Then she walked down 3 steps, letting the screen door slam behind her. "Wait, what's that hole in your shirt?" she asked, pointing at his collar. "It looks like somebody else tried to stab you." Nipper waited. Missy looked down at the scorpion and gazed into its emerald eyes. She grinned, exposing the large black space where one of her teeth was missing. Slowly, she took the ring from Nipper and slid it onto the index finger of her left hand. "Thanks, now get out of here," she said briskly and turned away. Nipper took one careful step backward. He didn't slip or trip. Remember, that ring was kind of jinxed. Quickly, he spun around and dashed back to the sidewalk. He grabbed Samantha's arm and pulled her off to the sidewalk and down into a bush. "Ouch," she said. "What are you—" "Shh," he whispered. "This is going to be great." They crouched in the bush and waited. Missy marched up the steps. She didn't stumble. She didn't fall backward down the stairs and land in poop. She didn't accidentally bash her face against the house. Missy grasped the handle of the screen door and paused. She looked back over her shoulder and shot a menacing glance in the general direction of Samantha and Nipper. They didn't think she could see them, but they both ducked a little closer to the ground. "Jeremy Bernard Spinner," she called out. "I know you're hiding in that bush." Then she turned back to the house and opened the screen door. "Can we go home now?" whispered Samantha. "Hold on," said Nipper. "Keep watching." Missy didn't trip on her own shoelaces. An airsick owl didn't fall from the sky and smack her on the top of the head. A cement mixer didn't make a wrong turn down the driveway and accidentally pour cement all over her. She disappeared into the house and the door swung shut behind her. "This makes no sense at all," Nipper wailed. "She's double, triple, super evil," Samantha reminded him. "Maybe a cursed ring doesn't have any effect." She could sense her brother's deep disappointment. It looked as if his head was going to explode. "Don't worry," said Samantha. "I'm pretty sure we can figure out how all this crazy mixed up stuff fits together." "You're starting to sound like Mom," said Nipper. Samantha looped the umbrella strap over her shoulder. Then she held out her hand to help him up. "Let's go home." All right, one more page of our interesting facts that may or may not have something to do with our story. The Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is a series of walls, trenches, and fortifications along the northern border of historical China. It was originally constructed between 250 and 200 BCE, incorporating many fortifications that were built hundreds of years earlier. It has been rebuilt many times over the centuries. It was made of wood, dirt, bricks, and limestone. Some of the sections are massive construction with towers and wide paved roads along the top. From end to end, the Great Wall is more than 5,000 miles long. The wall was built to protect Chinese empires from invasion. Today, it is a celebrated landmark. Almost everyone who visits northern China takes a trip to see the Great Wall. Look for a section of the wall near Jinshanling, about 80 miles north of Beijing. You'll know that you're close to a secret entrance when you see a red trash can with a lid shaped like one of the Great Wall's towers. Place your opened hand against the wall on the huge gray stone that is a different color from all the others. Then withdraw your hand and wait until you hear the sound of a gong. It will come from a speaker hidden in the trash can. If you lean against the stone, you'll be able to push it into the wall. Do not be startled by the sudden hissing sound of rushing air. There is a secret staircase. As you walk down, the stone will slowly slide back into place behind you. You will find that it's impossible to exit the way you entered. At the bottom of the stairs is a paved hallway that runs directly underneath the Great Wall. Rocket-powered bicycles have been stationed in plastic compartments every 50 miles along the path. There are secret signs and markers hidden along the walls of this subterranean roadway. Be sure to bring a pair of invisible ink-detecting glasses with you on your journey. That sounds like a cool adventure. Chapter 31, The Curse. 4 weeks later, the Spinner family sat in the kitchen sharing amazing true facts and strawberry waffles. Samantha had completely stopped power moping, and her father had stepped up to become the new breakfast maker. Samantha and her mother sat next to each other at the table. Mrs. Spinner was busy filling out another unexplained vanishing person form. The last one had come back because someone had listed Uncle Paul's first name as Uncle and his last name as Paul. Samantha was studying her sketch from Edfu. I think that's Cleopatra's Needle, said Mrs. Spinner, looking over at the drawing. That seems awfully big for a needle, said Mr. Spinner, glancing down at the table. He held a plate piled high with fresh, hot waffles. Samantha could never tell if her dad was brilliant or a grown-up version of her little brother. And was it a real needle or something else? She looked up at her mother. What and where is Cleopatra's... Hold that thought, said Mrs. Spinner. I almost forgot. She took out a postcard. This came in the mail yesterday, too. The card featured several overlapping pictures, including the Statue of Liberty, Yankee Stadium, and the Empire State Building. Samantha's mother read it out loud. Dearest Mother, Father, Sammy, and Little Nipper, I have wonderful news. I spent most of the money, and it looked like I was going to have to head back to dreary Seattle. Then just in time, I got a call from the famous Broadway producer, Horace Temple. He wants to cast me in his new musical show. I hope you come and see my singing and dancing debut. Kisses, Scarlet Hydrangea. P.S. If you must write back about your boring lives, be sure to send the letter to my new address in New York City. Mr. Spinner shrugged. I didn't think Buffy could sing and or dance. Horace Temple? Asked Mrs. Spinner. I've never heard of a famous producer named Horace Temple. It almost sounds like it could be an Egyptian name, said Mr. Spinner. Samantha raised her eyebrows. Nipper pretended to pay attention, but he was actually listening to the sports news blaring from the living room. 24 games in a row, a voice shouted. The New York Yankees were setting a record for the longest losing streak in the history of baseball. Some sports experts think that the Yankees are losing every game they play because of a terrible ancient curse, another announcer chimed in. How about that, old pal? Nipper whispered to Dennis, who rested at his feet. Roof, the little dog barked. 10 million candle powers worth of pure white light shot out from below the table. The intense rays reflected off windows, silverware, and appliances, filling the room with the glare of the X27B light bulb that Nipper and Samantha had absolutely forgotten to remove from Dennis's collar. Mr. Spinner dropped the waffle plate and tried to shield his eyes. It fell to the floor with a crash, scattering waffles and strawberries everywhere. I recognize the color balance of that light, he said, bending down and reaching for the blinky marker. Dennis bolted for a waffle and seized it triumphantly, dashing out of the room and leaving a trail of syrup and powdered sugar. Nipper and his parents chased the sticky pug. Samantha could hear them running from one brightly lit room to another, bumping into chairs and knocking over the coffee table. The sound of a lamp breaking came from upstairs. Alone at last, Samantha glanced down at her notebook. She looked at the drawing of the mysterious obelisk. Horus Temple, she said. Horus Temple? Something went thump, and the kitchen table shook. Samantha bent down and looked around. There was nothing to see. Or was there? She took a closer look and saw something she'd never noticed before. 3 of the table legs were square, and 1 was round. She put her hand near the top of the curved leg where it connected to the tabletop. A stream of air pulsed from a seam in the leg. She pushed gently on it, and there was a click. Then she pulled her hand away. When she pulled her hand away, a small curved door flipped open. The leg was a pneumatic tube. She pulled a small plastic cylinder from inside. She popped open the top with her thumb, and a pair of sunglasses dropped out onto the table. They had silver frames. The lenses were purple and shaped like octagons. A small paper tag was tied to the bridge of the glasses. Samantha read the note. Watch out for the sun. Horus. Samantha smiled. It was Uncle Paul. He was alive, and Samantha was going to find him. She stood up. Nipper was actually the very first person she wanted to tell about this discovery. Then she heard several crashes overhead and the sounds of her family chasing Dennis from room to room. She sat back down and looked at her notebook. The little black book had started out as a gloomy and depressing journal. Now it was becoming a guide to amazing places around the world, loaded with secret instructions. Samantha planned to add entries about the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and the other places she visited, and many, many other places she was going to visit. Samantha flipped through the book until she found a blank page. Still smiling, she began to write. There's a little bit of Nellie McPepper in all of us. It's easy to believe that our hopes and dreams have been jacked up on a massive flatbed truck and hauled away for good. But take a closer look at things and you'll find there are possibilities everywhere. All around, the world is waiting to reveal special secrets and amazing adventures. We have many places to go and a lot to do. The end. So my friends, that was kind of an exciting adventure that Samantha and Nipper went on. Part of the thing and we know that there's a book too. So in this Samantha Spinner and the Super Secret Plans, she had to watch out for the rain. The second book is called Samantha Spinner and the Spectacular Specs, as in glasses. We know she just got those. We're now excited to know that she's pretty sure Uncle Paul is still out there and okay. They know how to use some of the mag train, or some of the different tunnels and the different things, the pneumatic tubes, the water tube, the mag train. But one of the things I really loved about this book as well were all of the interesting facts that we learned that we kind of thought were random, but actually turned out to be pretty helpful in the story. But you also learned some really good facts about a lot of different things, and then there was extra parts about the way it worked in the story. So the Great Wall of China, if you ever get to go to northern China and walk on the Great Wall, pretty sure there's no red trash can with a secret brick that you push and you go downstairs and there's rocket powered bikes. But what a cool thought if there were. It would be a perfect place to have a secret pathway that could get you other places. The Eiffel Tower, the Louvre Museum, the Hope Diamond, all of those things were pretty interesting extra. Oh, the Titanic. Again, there was some definite history and facts about it, and then there was some things that helped make it be included in the story. If you are ever to check this book out for yourself, and I hope that some of you will get to, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the back that is extra fun, super secret spy kinds of things. So remember that Nipper lost pretty much everything always, and Uncle Paul had given him a lot of cool things. So here's the amazing true facts about the stuff that Nipper had gotten, including the New York Yankees. And it says right here, whoa, Nellie, this book is full of super secret secrets. There's a word search hidden in the ID tags at the top left corner of Samantha's journal. The Snodgrass code. The mag train miles per hour message. The umbrella hand lens enigma. So this one, every chapter has umbrellas and hand lenses at the top. They're all different. And depending on what order they're in and which direction the umbrella or the hand lens are pointing is a different clue. And here's the code for that. So you could unlock that secret clues. Oh, and then there's the answers in the back. I'm not gonna let you know. But there's a lot of fun stuff that you could do if you had the actual book in front of you. So remember, we have this one. We do not have part 2 in the library yet. Maybe we can get that before long, or maybe it's at the public library. We don't know. Or maybe Mrs. Real will have to order it on Amazon and see if it can come to her house. Because I'm kind of interested to know what's happening with the sun. We watched out for the rain. Now we're going to watch out for the sun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was fun. I loved learning a bunch of those different facts. I think they had some really fun adventures, some smelly, sneaky ones as well. But the mag train part sounded like a great fun thing to me. So we'll have to see. So until we start a new book, my friends, I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.